You're watching ABC's Wide World of Sports.
It's time for ignition and straight up automobile pimping.
2 weeks ago in Michigan, the IndyCars nearly brought down the house.
Look at that, they go 4 wide.
And after a season of frustration, Chevrolet's new power plant bared its fangs.
The leader is a remarkable story. Sam Hornick, brand new Chevrolet Gen 4 engine being chased by Toyota.
Alex Barron's spin to win.
Hang on to it.
Completed the fastest race in IRL history.
Here we go. They go side by side into 3. Coming for the flag.
But left Chevrolet still thirsting for more.
The boys are back in town.
The boys are back.
Today, from the banks of the Mississippi, the IndyCars invade St. Louis. The battle for engine supremacy continues next.
Live from Gateway International Raceway, just across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, ABC Sports presents the Emerson Indy 250. This is the IRL IndyCar Series 11th race of the year, and Jackaroot, one big story continues to be the new Gen 4 Chevy engine.
And Bob, here at St. Louis, the leader of the Bowtie Boys will be Buddy Rice in Eddie Cheever Jr.'s Red Bull car. He's got the Gen 4 engine, qualified in the 11th position, says the car's got a lot of bark. Now he wants to see if it's got bite. Gary Gerald, what about the Bowtie boy that had it in Michigan? Sam Hornish starts 1 row back in 14th.
And Jack, a brand new look at the front of the field. Kenny Brack, former IRL champion, by far his best qualifying effort this year, starts outside front row. He missed the pole by only 0.03 of a second. The man on the pole, Helio Castroneves, driving for Team Penske. And for the first time since Indianapolis, he starts number 1. Now, he hasn't won in 20 races, but keep in mind, Jack, this man has finished in the top 3 6 times this year.
Gary, also keep in mind, this is a short track. Last time on a short track, this man, Gilles de Ferran, the Indy 500 winner, was victorious. De Ferran likes the short track, says it's a mental part of the game. Don't forget, Gary Gerald, he finished first 1 year ago here.
Jack, for the first time in 5 races, Chip Ganassi's target team not represented in the front row. But here's the season points leader. This is Scott Dixon, 3-time winner. 6 times this year he had started in the front row. Today it's inside row 3. How about his teammate Thomas Scheckter, 3 times a front row starter? He's right behind him inside in row number 4, and he's coming off his best finish of the year, a 3rd place at Michigan. The Ganassi drivers have led 42% of more than 2,000 laps run this year. And right now, it's time to go racing.
Sarah, start your engine. Gentlemen, do the same and see if you can catch her.
And so for the 3rd time, the IRL Series is about to compete on this 1.25 mile racetrack, Gateway International Raceway. Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins, and if the morning warm-up is any indication, we are going to see a continuance today of the close competition and the tight finishes we have seen in the IRL, including the incredible checkered flag 2 weeks ago at Michigan International Speedway. In all but 1 race this year that finished under green, the margin of victory has been less than 1 second. 7 different winners in the first 10 races this year, and that has led to an incredible points championship battle. The top 3 are separated by just 3 points, and the top 5 separated by 61. It looks like the IRL title and the $1 million bonus will go right down to the final race in Texas. Johnny Rutherford, the 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner, has the 21-car field lined up behind him in this order.
Helio Castroneves, car number 3.
Kenny Brack, car number 15.
Tony Kanaan, car number 11.
Gilles de Ferran, car number 6.
Scott Dixon, car number 9.
Brian Herta, car number 27. Thomas Scheckter, car number 10. Alex Barron, car number 21.
Roger Yasukawa, number 55.
Sona Takaki, car number 12.
Buddy Rice, car number 52. Dan Weldon, car number 26.
Greg Ray, car number 13.
Sam Hornish Jr., car number 4.
Vitor Mira, car number 2.
AJ 44, car number 14.
Alan Jr., car number 31.
Sarah Fisher, car number 23.
Robbie Buell, car 24. Scott Sharp, car number 8.
Buddy Lazier, car number 91.
Well, that's the starting order, and Scott Goodyear, Tony Kanaan will try to get back into the points lead today.
Tony, you had a disappointing finish at Michigan, which knocked you out of that points lead. Tricky track here today at St. Louis. How are you going to get up front and lead and win?
It's going to be a long day for all of us. It's a difficult racetrack to pass. The top 5 cars are very competitive, so we're going to be patient, take the right opportunities, use traffic, have good pit stops. Sounds very easy, but you know, we'll try.
Good luck today.
Well, the race drivers refer to this track as a paperclip. Long straightaways, very tight little turns. In fact, a lot like a road course. Handling's a premium.
It really is, Paul. Horsepower sometimes won't help you here. Even those 2,000-foot long straightaways, those tight turns are really a battle, and they're both different at each end. Compromise on chassis setup is key. Consistency is key. Horsepower won't help you like it did maybe at Michigan.
Well, the field is rolling, so let's take a look at the trim spa track conditions. It's warm here today. Track temperature up to 127 degrees. Race analysis. Third pole for Helio Castroneves. The top 8 in the field qualified, separated by 0.3 of a second. Some stories to keep track of course, the championship fight. Helio still trying to win his first since the Indy 500 last year. Kenny Brack starts on the front row. 18 races since his last win. And handling track, how will the Gen 4 do here? Today we have 8 race cars carrying 21 onboard cameras for you, so the view should be terrific. Some indications that the pole sitter had a problem. Jackaroo?
Yeah, Paul, the telemetry is out on Helio Castroneves' car. No readout on the dash, no readout on pit road. Tim Cindric very calmly just said to Helio, looks like we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way today.
Well, that could be a problem when you need to really understand the fuel mileage that you're getting here. Helio Castroneves, though, that old-fashioned way, meaning the boards and hand signals, will probably work just fine. Castroneves, Kenny Brack bring the field around the 3rd turn, heading for the 4th turn and the green flag. DeFerrin Kanaan back in the 2nd row. Crowd comes to its feet. Green flag is out. They're racing at Gateway. Look at Kenny Brack sweep to the outside. They go 2 wide through 1 and 2. Everybody clean onto the backstretch. Kenny Brack tries to push a nose ahead to lead the first lap. He gets ahead of him. Here comes Tony Kanaan. He's going after Castroneves.
Paul, they talked about maybe only a single line around this racetrack, but these guys are already showing that you can run 2 abreast, just like they did in warm-up this morning.
Yeah, they found it in the morning warm-up. We were all like, wow, where did they find that extra room? Kenny Brack pulls away from the field, the car owned by Bobby Rahal and Dave Letterman. Last win was his win at the Indianapolis 500. And it's the first time ever that Kenny Brack has led an opening lap. Jill DeFerrin just up ahead.
Now, we talked about these tight turns, Paul. Turns 1 and 2, a little bit more banking than possibly 3 and 4, but I'll tell you something, it's a tight turn itself. You've got to get in there, get on the brakes a little bit, shift down a gear, come out of 2, back up a gear, almost like driving a bit of a road course.
Tony Kanaan is looking, tucks in behind Brack, but then decides it's not the place to do it. There goes a gear. Look at the flex in the front wings, too.
A lot of pressure coming on the car. Those cars create somewhere 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of downforce. They say you can take a car 200 miles an hour. They say you can turn a car inverted. It would run on a ceiling because it has so much grip.
Use the overtake button if you need it.
Really what's happening now, Paul, these guys are running probably a little bit shallow on fuel. They're not getting maximum fuel, maximum spark. That overtake button is almost like a qualifying trim button, 100% spark. 100% fuel gives you just a quick burst of speed as it would do in qualifying, but it only lasts maybe for 10 seconds.
Keeping an eye on Scott Dixon. And back on the front of the field, here comes Kanaan. Man wants that points lead back. And so Tony Kanaan, driving for Andretti Green Racing, takes the lead, and here comes Elio Castroneves. Whoa, close one alongside Kenny. Castroneves comes to second.
Kenny's starting to struggle right now, Paul. You can see he's not keeping the speed up around the turns. Those guys are starting just to come around him on both ways.
So Kenny Brack with that great early run. Was it a test? Did he want to go out there and see what he could do? And now is happy to be here, or is there a problem? Dixon now has to give way to Brian Herta. The two Target Chip Ganassi cars run together, both Dixon and Scheckter. But they're sitting back 6 and 7. On the move right now. Kanaan's come forward those two positions. Scott Sharp, who has not had a great weekend, crashed the primary car yesterday. He's come forward a couple, and Sarah Fisher has dropped back.
Andretti Green seems like they've got this track down. Kanaan's taken to the lead right now. Herta seems like he's on a bit of a charge. We talked about the handling. Horsepower won't help you that much. Even that pushing that speed button will not help you that much if you cannot get out of the corner. The passes are happening going into the turn, but it's all transpiring down at the far end of the racetrack.
Go down to Jackaroo.
Scott Remke is watching his car run. Scott, what's wrong with Kenny Brack? Anything?
No, we're all right. We just got to get caught up on that outside lane. Those guys got to run at us. We'll be all right.
And Scott, one thing we should tell you, checking with Scott, he says Kenny Brack is running wide open. They're not conserving any fuel right now.
Well, nor should they have to.
Well, right now it's still early, and they say you can make good fuel mileage here on this racetrack, but as you know, up and down the throttle really eats up on the gas fuel mileage for these cars.
Just ahead, the Motorola car. That's Brian Herta.
You saw Dixon take 2 gear changes there, probably running a lower gear coming out of 1 and 2 to get that bit of a spur of speed coming out of the turn and going up 2 gears, going down in turn 3.
So Tony Kanaan's out in front. We told you the track was kind of weird looking. It is, but it sure makes for some wonderful racing. Kanaan, Castroneves, DeFerrin, top 3.
The Gateway Indy 250 on ABC Sports, brought to you by Target. Expect more, pay less. Firestone, America's tire since 1900. And Chevrolet, wherever there's a winner's circle, we'll be there.
Well, Tony Kanaan still the leader. He's led in 10 of 11 races this year. It's Honda, Toyota, the top 3. And Elio Castroneves sits back in, well, back in the field. He's in second as they're overhauling some slower traffic now. And Jack, what about that telemetry problem? What are they doing with that?
Getting a little bit of information is better than none. So what Marlboro Team Penske has done, just like you and I would at home, they've taken an Ethernet cable, run it from Elio Castroneves' pit down to his teammate Gilles DeFerrin. Tim Cindric says at least we can compare notes and see how DeFerrin's car is operating, get an idea vis-a-vis fuel consumption, etc.
So, Jack, they're not getting the telemetry, but they know what DeFerrin's car is doing. They assume Castroneves is the same. I guess that's what he meant.
That's exactly what they're looking at when they say go back to the old days, Paul. Like you said, the signboard, and somebody will be sitting up there with a pen and paper right now going through how many laps and how many gallons of fuel they think they're using.
Tony Kanaan in front. Gary Gerald, what's his story?
Kim Green telling him on the radio, settle in, pace yourself, do what you can when you can on fuel. So now that we get into race pace, and of course, fuel consumption is a whole lot more critical here than at most other ovals, particularly coming off of that great race at Michigan. Here you're shifting, downshifting, and you're on and off the throttle. So fuel consumption not nearly as good as on the big oval 2 weeks ago.
Tony Kanaan, dedicated to racing, well-liked. He's got a great sense of humor, is always playing with his fellow competitors. Now he's going to have to play seriously with Buddy Lazier, who's just ahead. Kanaan already on top of the rest of the field and having to work his way through.
And Paul, this is difficult for a driver now that's leading. He's going into the turn, and the particular driver ahead wants a high line entrance right now. So he knows that somebody's going to come underneath him. You see what Buddy Lazier's doing? He's going down to the center of the track to the same piece of road that Tony Kanaan wants.
Castroneves closing on him now. Look at the view back from Tony Kanaan. Castroneves right there and trying to get to the inside. And Castroneves takes the lead back. But now he's going to get bottled up behind Buddy Lazier.
Absolutely. Kanaan paid the price for trying to get around traffic in front of him. Got hung up by Lazier. We'll see what happens with Castroneves now.
That's a pretty good run to the inside. Castroneves gets by clean.
Got a bit better run at him. Here we go with Kanaan. He's going to get behind, get a bit of a draft right now. Slingshot underneath. Picks up a gear going back down to turn 1.
They do have to be so careful here, though. In fact, they were cautioned by the IRL to make sure you know that the car alongside you sees you before you make any desperate moves here because of the sweeping approach you have to take to the turns off the long straightaway.
Absolutely. It's a little bit like downhill skiing. You want to start on the outside and go towards your pickup point and then go on the outside on the exit of the turn. Very tight turns here, as you talked about. Not much banking, and the wide approach really works the best.
Now, Tony Kanaan is letting Elio Castroneves take point and work his way through traffic. Not sure if it's better for the guy that's leading or the guy that's in second. If you're in second, you got to be a little careful. You have to tiptoe and make sure, well, they saw the leader. Are they going to see me? Next Sunday, points leaders Dixon, Kanaan, DeFerrin. They take the championship battle to Kentucky Speedway. Don't miss the Belterra Resort Indy 300 next Sunday at 2:11 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Keyword Indy. Castroneves, Kanaan, and DeFerrin. Put those two names together. Jack Arute.
Well, this is not the first time this weekend that Marlboro Team Penske's Elio Castroneves has had dashboard and telemetry problems. When he went out to qualify on the first lap, he looked down. There was no time. There was no readout on the dashboard. He said, I looked up on the scoring pylon, couldn't see my number. Said, I figured I'd better really stick the second lap. He stuck it well enough that he broke the track record. One of 5 that did that this weekend.
So Elio Castroneves is back in front. Kanaan second, DeFerrin third. Castroneves, 20 races now without a win. Can he do it today? They're inches away at 214 miles an hour. Oh, Jill DeFerrin wins the Indianapolis 500. Look at that. Just across the river and about 3 minutes away from downtown St. Louis at Gateway International Raceway, Elio Castroneves is in front, being chased by Tony Kanaan. Castroneves' teammate, Jill DeFerrin, is in third place. And the Penske team continues to try and work around some awkward telemetry. In fact, none at all out of Elio Castroneves' car. There's the spread back to Jill DeFerrin, the number 6 car.
And Paul, you talk about that telemetry. What that system does, it takes all the information from the functions of the car and the engine and sends it back real time to those engineers that are sitting in the pit box. They can see everything, including fuel mileage. That's not only gone for the guys in the pit box, but also for Elio Castroneves on his dash. So that's why they're flying blind.
And on this track where power is less important than handling, Bob Jenkins, what's going on with the Chevrolets behind the leader?
Well, it would seem that perhaps the handling has gone away just a little bit on the Buddy Rice car. He was the fastest Chevy during qualifying and began this race in 11th position, but he has now dropped back to 15th, as a matter of fact. Sam Hornish Jr. has become the best Chevy at the moment, running in 11th position. Buddy Rice did compete here last year at St. Louis. It was his second ever IRL race. He started 15th and finished 4th, and before that, he raced Toyota Atlantics here on this racetrack and had a second place finish in 2000. Right now, though, Rice appears to be losing positions as he is the only one with the Gen 4 right now. But again, every one of the Chevy teams will have it next week at Kentucky.
And boy, they can't wait. You saw Rice was actually lapped by the leader just as Jenks began talking there. And Vitor Mira is up there doing battle with Rice, who's now way off the line and on the pit road. So for the Gen 4 engine, this is a stop well early with only 36 laps complete. Down to the 60-mile-an-hour pit speed limit. Look how narrow the pits are here. That's a big issue.
Very big issue, especially if we have a yellow flag stop with everybody coming in, Paul. It will be like traffic jam at 60 miles an hour.
So the Eddie Cheever, Team Red Bull, and the yellow comes out. Might have been Foyt the fourth. When we got a view of him, he was very, very high, like he was just coming off of a brush with a wall. But until we hear from IRL control.
Now, usually what ends up happening, Paul, if there's a brush with the wall, those nice white walls will have all those new black marks put on them.
Well, here we'll get an idea.
Yeah, it's almost going 3 abreast. And
a little touch with Herta.
Absolutely. Now, when he's up that high, he's on all the rubber, all the marbles, and he just kisses the wall, possibly a small amount. What a great recovery.
Nifty bit of driving by Foyt the fourth. Pits are closed. They will open shortly, and when they do, best indication is the leaders will all head for the pit road. So talking to Elio Castroneves, top of the field bunches up again.
Had a conversation with him this morning, Paul, and he said, you know, this track, because the turns are so different on both ends, you have to give up one end to make the other end better, and you need to decide which end that you want to make the best for your car. And he chose actually turns 1 and 2 and gave away 3 and 4.
So the field lines up behind Johnny Rutherford in the Corvette pace car, ready for the pits to open next Monday night. Al, John, and Lisa are here in St. Louis for a preseason matchup. The Super Bowl champion Buccaneers take on the Rams. August 18th, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on ABC. So there's the field waiting now only for the word that the pits are open. Our IndyCar quiz. What is the only active U.S. IRL track at which Sam Hornish Jr. has never led a lap? This one is, it stumped us, didn't it?
It stumped us. You know, you asked me that this morning, and I gave you 2 wrong answers because, you know, I couldn't believe that Sam had not led at every track that he's been to, but he's been so good.
And this is Jenk's question. He really had this one nailed.
That's
hard
amazing.
to believe, isn't it?
Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where he's had some great race cars, maybe not the best luck, but look for him to win that race quite a few times in his career.
We got to get some older questions back where guys like I really have the answers to them, or guys like me, whichever it is. They're all on the pit road now.
And Paul, one distinct advantage for Elio Castroneves being the leader. He doesn't have to be concerned about whether his pit speed limiter works or not. Remember, that's tied into telemetry. He'll just lead the field down in what he thinks is a small, slow.
There's a lot of bumping and shoving going on there, guys, in the pit lane. Remember, we talked about yellow flag, narrow pit lane, Paul, and you talked about it before. There's a high-speed lane, a transfer lane, and then their pit box. And right now, everybody wants the same piece of real estate.
Herta and Dixon got together on the way in. Castroneves out first. Kanan out behind him. Oh, and they've got more down in the pits. And remember we talked about the narrow lanes? That's Herta again, and they've got a crew member down now. It looks like a crew member with Allenser Jr.'s team.
Let's get him started here, guys.
Brian Herta is going to climb out of the cockpit. They're getting Allenser Jr. rolling. But it's not going to roll. They're going to try and start it down here. Little help from Morris Nunn's team.
Same starter unit fits in all cars.
And now they're pointing to shut the car off, but he goes anyway. Maybe they'll hop on the radio to him.
Well, I got to look at that car coming out of the pit lane. It looked like maybe the suspension wasn't correct on it because the car seemed like it was definitely, as we call it, dog-legged.
Well, the report from one of our spotters is that Herta and Buddy Lazier touched on the pit road, and that knocked Herta into the Allenser Jr. pit and car.
Yeah, now you look at that left rear of the car on lower screen, which is Allenser Jr., that left rear either is flat or the suspension is broken.
All right, we want to go back. We're going to try to figure this one out. Now watch as they come in. Keep an eye about mid-pack there.
Look how crowded that is.
There you go. So that's Herta getting into Dixon. Now look up pits. And Herta locks him up and goes right into the pit. Oh.
Both cars leaving at the same time, going to that transfer lane and then to the high-speed lane.
Another look at it. My goodness, I hope everybody's okay.
Now this is the transfer lane that we're talking about right there, and this is where they're trying to get to, the high-speed lane. Everybody comes out in this transfer lane. Once the cars are touched, it's a busy place, Paul, and it's a very, very hard time for a driver. They talked about the heart rate of drivers, actually, and I'll tell you from my past experience that you know you're coming for a pit stop. It's not only a tense time for the guys, but also for the drivers, because so much can go right and so much can go wrong in such a short space of time.
And angry and upset, Allenser Jr. climbs out of his car after 42 laps. There's your top 6, and we'll try to make better sense of that stop.
Back at Gateway International Raceway across the river from St. Louis in Madison, Illinois, and under caution. The caution came on because of a relatively minor incident on the track in which Brian Herta touched wheels with A.J. Foyt IV and sent Foyt near the wall and possibly brushing it. But then as the pit stops were being made, we had an incident on pit road in which Brian Herta slammed into the back of the Allenser Jr. car, resulting in an injury to at least one crewman. We are continuing to watch that situation right now. Well, Sam Hornish Jr. has been struggling all year with the Gen 3 Chevy. He got the Gen 4 Chevy last week and made it work at Michigan.
The leader is a remarkable story.
That's why you compete, for moments like that.
I saw it in my mirrors. I could see him get loose.
I was looking at the grandstands, looking at the people standing, screaming and carrying on.
Look at this! Right 3 wide on the top side. Look how close they are.
I was on the edge of my seat, and I was in the car.
2 to go.
The second last lap of the race was the fastest lap of the race.
Sam Hornish, brand new Chevrolet Gen 4 engine being chased by Toyota.
I couldn't watch.
Here we go. They go side by side into 3. Hornish has got him by a nose, but Barron now pushes ahead. Barron takes it.
It's a timing move, and he got the timing right, and he got it right on the one that counted the last lap.
Alex Barron has won.
I was disappointed in the fact that I didn't win, but man, what a great race for the fans.
Oh, that was cool.
I'm sure he's been frustrated not having horsepower this year to some extent. He's never complained about it.
It would have been really frustrating if I didn't think there was any progress being made.
We have a lot of faith in our partners. We knew General Motors and Chevrolet were working very hard, and we knew what was coming. You know, we've been working on this since March.
Now we kind of feel like we're back in the game. We've got a chance. You know, it's pretty frustrating to have had the success that Panther and Sam have experienced and be the 2-time champions, and then get into the heat of the thing, and you really can't compete.
They come for the line. They come for the line, and it's Hornish. Hornish the champion. Hornish the winner.
We don't go to lose. You know, there isn't one person in this building that likes to lose.
You know, mathematically, we still have a shot at winning the championship.
I think we've still got a chance to win the championship. Of course, I've thought about it. That's why we do this, you know. But at the same time, I think we need to stay focused and worry about one event at a time.
Look at Hornish on the inside.
It's tough because, you know, I want to win races by big amounts. I want to win by 3 laps.
I think in many regards, he's probably a much better race driver today than he was 6 months ago, because he's had to find other ways to move forward on the track. He's had to refine the chess game aspect of it.
I've been doing this for 35 years, and I've been around all the best, and I put him against anybody.
Sam Hornish Jr. has the Gen 3 again this weekend. Again, everybody that involves with the Chevy program will have one in Kentucky next weekend. Currently, Sam Hornish Jr. is running in 8th position. Elio Castroneves is the leader of this race. First 7 races, 3 wins. The last 20 in his IRL career, none. He has led the most laps today, 27. Tony Kanaan has been up front 16, and Kenny Brack, who started outside row number 1, has been at the front of the field for 5 laps. We are trying to get information on the injured crewman. We do know that it was from the Kelly team. The left rear tire changer. We do not know the name or the condition at the moment, but we'll continue to follow that very, very closely. We're going green, Paul, next time.
And it'll be Elio Castroneves on point. Tony Kanaan right behind him. Jill DeFerrin lines up in 3rd place. Again, Castroneves, a car without telemetry. There's the restart order for you. Mira is a lap down. One of the Chevrolet-powered cars, but Mira handles very well, so he might be able to hang with the leaders for a while here.
Well, the key thing he wants to do is make sure he can see if he can get his lap back, which is a tall order right now with all these guys around him being so fast.
Off the corner, good. And down to the first turn. By the way, Brian Herta's car was retired after that incident in the pits. And Buddy Rice, who you saw go into the pits, you now see is back on the track.
And that's DeFerrin right now getting himself right around Mira. He wants to make sure he keeps up to the top of those guys, keeps in the chase of those guys running right at the front. Doesn't look like Mira's going to have much possibility of getting his lap back.
So now the leaders clear themselves. 51 laps complete. There goes 2nd place. And 3rd. We're at the Gateway Indy 250. And we're about a 1/4 of the way into the race. 1 yellow caution period. And that was when Foyt the Fourth got up and touched Brian Herta, and then up against the wall. They brought out the yellow. No real damage to that car, but that set off not 1 but 2 different incidents in the pits, one of them involving injury to one of Al Unser Jr.'s crewmen.
And Paul, all these guys that are running at the top right now are chasing this championship, and even though we've got quite a few races left to go, we only have, let's say, 3 or 4 races in which these guys can really count on, because sometimes you know that you have a possibility of a DNF. Now, the other key thing is, too, we have 3 races basically in the next 15 days, all 3 in a row in the next 3 weekends, and all these guys are well aware of that. They know they make sure they keep themselves out there, keep out of trouble, and collect points for the championship.
Alex Barron, Gary Gerald, he figured into that first tap in the pits.
Yeah, we checked with his crew. Peter Parrott told us they got hit in the rear end. The attenuator at the back that protects the gearbox took the brunt of the blow. They think the car's working all right, but late in the yellow, Sam Hornish thought that there was spray coming from the 21 car. That has not been substantiated. Meanwhile, Kenny Brack, number 15, who is running in 5th place, front wing damage. They're just saying he'll hang on and do the best he can.
Yeah, we're watching Barron right now running 7th place, and there's no indication of spray at his car.
Well, and right now he's doing a great job, but Giafoni will actually be back in the States next week, Paul, and he'll have an opportunity to be looked at down at Methodist Hospital, and then he plans to attend both the Kentucky race coming up next week and also the Nazareth race.
And Kenny Brack had some problems with the front wing, Jackaroo.
And actually it can go as deep as into the nose. They're getting a report that there is a 4-inch hole in the nose cone of that car. I was just wondered, Scott, how much that'll change the handling characteristics on a short oval like this.
Well, Jack, usually at a place, a high-speed track like Indianapolis or Michigan, absolutely. Here, not so much at all. I don't think he really has to worry about it in today's race.
So nothing changes at the front of the field. It's Toyota, Honda, Toyota, Castroneves, Kanaan, DeFerrin. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television.
You are watching the IRL IndyCar Series on ABC Sports.
Well, when they arrived in town this week. A whole group of the IRL drivers got to head over to the Cardinals ballpark. Met Jim Edmonds. You saw him there. Elio Castroneves showed how good he is juggling balls, and got themselves some jerseys. Chance to really talk up everybody in the locker room. Then they were awarded some jerseys. And went out, bragged about it a little bit. Now, Castroneves got some good tips on how to throw. DeFerrin should have paid attention. Castroneves, that's in the strike zone. DeFerrin, oh, man. Well, they're driving better than they pitch. Castroneves still the leader. Kanaan second. Dixon just got around DeFerrin. DeFerrin's now back in 4th place. I gave DeFerrin some. I got into him for that pitch. Further back in the field, 7th place. We're still looking for spray at the back of Alex Barron's car. He runs in 7th.
And if there's spray coming out of the engine of the gearbox, Paul, it usually comes out in that back area right there. There's a couple of overflow tubes. And if it becomes very major, then we'll just start to see it coming out from the engine cowling, which is this orange piece that we have right there.
Or any place else, you'd assume it's from something rubbing.
Sometimes they get reports from other drivers when the car goes past, because it's in everybody's best interest to make sure there's nothing leaking onto the racetrack causing a problem for other cars.
Castroneves works his way alongside of Buddy Rice, the new Chevy Gen 4, but it's Toyota and Honda top 2 positions right now. Then Dixon and DeFerrin. Jenks, what's going on behind the leader?
We've been keeping our eye on Dan Weldon, the 25-year-old from England, who has been having a good race so far. He started back in the 12th position and has moved up to 9th right now. Has been driving a very steady yet productive race at the moment. Now, he has never raced here at St. Louis in terms of the Indy Racing League. However, he did have a win in an Indy Lights car here back in 2001. And the year before that, he ran in the Toyota Atlantic race here and finished in 7th position. Dan Weldon, of course, will remember for the flip that he took at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the 500-mile race. But he definitely has a career ahead of him here in the Indy Racing League, having brought experience from Formula Ford's, Toyota Atlantics, and the Indy Lights Series. Paul?
So as you watch Dan Weldon, the Klein Tools car, the leader remains Castroneves. We did have a report that Tora Takagi got loose for a second coming off at turn 4. Now that's a turn where your mechanical grip tends to matter more than aero grip, but he got it back under control. No yellow and continued on.
It's a compromise at this racetrack, Paul. Both turns are different, as we just spoke about. You cannot have a perfect race car at both ends of this racetrack, so the guys know that they have to give up one end. And usually sometimes turn 4 is a difficult one because it's a highest speed turn on the racetrack.
A few minutes ago, Scott Dixon got around DeFerrin for 3rd place, Gary Gerald.
And he is a tiger on the prowl right now. The season points leader, 3-time winner. After he gained that spot, is now trying to close ground on Tony Kanaan. He's getting cheerleading from the pits. They did not make any change on the pit stop. They said the car is excellent. They say he is gaining ground. The only unhappy note, Dixon was just on the radio as he lapped A.J. Foyt the 4th, saying get him off the racetrack. He's sick.
Well, we've certainly heard that criticism before. Looking down, Foyt the 4th is running laps at 161 miles an hour compared to the leader's 167 for a top speed. And he's headed on into the pit road, currently sits in 18th place. You saw Castroneves as he worked alongside Sharp, who has not had the greatest of weekends here. Crashed his primary car, currently runs 13th. Tony Kanaan took over the lead just a moment ago. Right after he did it, Scott Dixon moved around Elio Castroneves and is now charging Kanaan for the lead. Kanaan having to handle traffic, Buddy Lazier just ahead of him on the track.
Strong run off of 4 right now, not enough to hold them back. He's been looking at that for quite a few laps. I would say that in these long runs right now, Paul, Dixon's car looks like it's running the strongest. The other guys are starting to fade just a small amount.
If the front of the field is bunched right now, Dixon, Kanaan, and the 2 Penske cars, Castroneves and DeFerrin. It's Toyota, Honda, Toyota, Toyota. Top Chevrolet is Hornish Jr. He's back in 8th place. That helicopter taking the injured Kelly team crew member to the local medical center. And Jack Arute, do you have any update on that?
Do, Paul. They are headed to St. Louis University Hospital with the injured party. We cannot bring you the name. The IRL cannot release it pending notification of next of kin. But we can give you some very good news. The crew member is conscious and is listed at this point in time as stable condition, but serious as well.
Well, they do some miracle work. Dr. Henry Bach and the medical team. Here is Kenny Brack. He's in. The leaders all fighting together. Canaan, Castroneves, DeFerrin, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Well, the engine went off for Kenny Brack. They put it up on the jacks, then they settled it down. They had a new nose to come over the wall, and with the car stopped here, we can clearly see extensive damage to the left side of that front nose wing. But the concern seems to be back through the left side pod. It may be electronics related.
Castroneves now DeFerrin around Canaan and pushes Canaan back to 4th place with Schechter right there as well.
Now remember, Paul, these turns are so tight, you have to be able to put the power down. That means accelerate hard on the gas pedal coming out of the turn. It does not look like Tony Kanaan can do that and carry the car speed out of the turn. And that's why he's getting passed, going down, then straight away into the next turn.
Again, they bunch up. Slower traffic just ahead. Dixon gets away by a full 3 seconds now as he runs clear for the moment.
And his car, like I said, is starting to work very well for him. He's not only getting through traffic, but now he's got clean air in front of him, and he's starting to lay down some very fast laps, 164 miles an hour the last lap, when Castroneves and DeFerrin are 162 and less. So without a doubt, Dixon seems like he's got his car working the best for him right now.
First pit stop, of course, has been complete as the Penske cars go side by side. DeFerrin tries it. Castroneves holds him off. Would expect the next stop to come in about 10 to 12 laps now. That'll mean one more before the end of the run.
And it's interesting to watch. Brian Barnhart, the chief of the IRL, has always been very critical of people blocking, but there's been a lot of guys coming out of the turn and not getting their speed up and starting to run a different line going down the turn, as we see right now with the Penske cars. Everybody going low, trying to protect their line.
In traffic, the two Penske cars fight again. DeFerrin again is held off. Buddy Rice gets pushed way high and is very careful. It's so slick up there. I have no idea. It's like ice when you make that transition.
Well, you're running on top of rubber marbles, and that's the wearing that's coming from the tires from the race cars right now. And anytime you get out of that black section into the gray, that's where all those rubber marbles are. It's basically almost like driving on ice.
Gary Gerald.
Quick update on Tony Kanaan. Kim Green says the car has understeer, particularly bad in traffic. So anytime he gets in one of those clusters, car's not working, not balanced the way he wants it, he has slipped back to 4th.
So finally, he clears traffic. Kenny Brack rolling back into competition, though he's lost considerable distance. Now 6 laps behind the race itself in 18th. There into the inside is Schechter. Hornish tucks right in there.
Outside, Hornish and back. Outside, outside, outside.
Hornish kind of backed out a little early there. Breathed it. Looks like he's trying to stay back out of whatever's coming off of the wing in front of him.
You know, everybody's been talking about how mature he's become as a driver. He certainly had the package underneath him to win the championship for the last couple of years. He's starting to look on the outside of Schechter. But I'll tell you, when you don't have as much horsepower, you have to find different ways to do things. And I think he's matured. He's become a better driver. And when he gets that Gen 4 engine for the next few races starting Kentucky, Paul, watch out.
Well, he's been so spectacular this year with the engine that he had, with the exception, of course, of Michigan, where he had the Gen 4. He had the Gen 3. Buddy Rice into the pits. He was 17. And the stop appeared routine. He's out of the order anyway.
Out of the order. They put 4 Firestone tires on, 35 gallons of methanol fuel, and they probably made some air pressure adjustments. We did not see any other adjustments.
Caution comes out. Nothing obvious. Oh, yeah, that's obvious. So Roger Yasukawa, pretty serious damage to the right rear as he catches the wall and rolls down the front stretch.
Now that would look like just the right rear corner made contact with the wall. So situation he's very lucky with, because if you have a problem here and you've lost it going into the turn, then usually you end up having an impact mid-turn. But if you have a problem on the exit, oh, a wiggle right in the very middle of the turn. Now notice he was behind a couple of cars there. The car got dirty air, lost grip, got a little bit loose. He corrected it, and then when it caught itself back, it just headed directly to the wall.
He'd radioed that he's okay on the two-way radio.
Now you know you want to be down in this area down here. As we're starting to run through, we're going to watch something here. Watch his car, and as we start to go, you'll see the car make a bit of a twitch right there. He corrects it, but the car's already started its way towards the outside of the wall. You know, you're still doing 165 miles an hour here. You think this is a slow track when we come away from Michigan, but I'll tell you something, you're still going awfully quick here.
So Roger Yasukawa climbs out of the 55 car. Sundays this fall, this rookie's about to meet the man who will make him a cop. Danny Nucci and Ernie Hudson, 10-8. A new series coming Sundays this fall to ABC. So I'm assuming at least, if not all of the field, with the exception of Rice, that most everyone will come in to the pits on this stop. It's pretty timely for them. What about this track? It's a paperclip, it's narrow, it's tight. We asked the drivers, what do you think about racing here at Gateway?
Paperclip. Pretty much. I mean, it's narrow down in turns 1 and 2 with a little bit more banking, and it's wider down in 3 and 4 with a little bit less banking.
1 and 2 are exciting, really, from a driver's standpoint, because you really have to hustle the car down there. We're going down 1 gear, sometimes 2 gears. Out of there, pretty much to 3 and 4, it's almost one long drag strip getting back there.
1 and 2 is a real pointy corner, so you have to have a really good car, but you got to have enough torque to pull it off.
The pit stops are very critical here for position on the track. It's hard to overtake, and the texture of the track is a bit different than anything we run on also.
That's what some of the drivers think about Gateway International Raceway. Under caution because of an incident involving Roger Yasukawa. He's okay. The pits are open, and so we're going to see a considerable amount of pit activity here. Buddy Rice was in just moments ago. He won't come in, but most everybody else will. Jack?
Watch for a change in the front wing. You're going to take a little wing out. Elio Castroneves wants a little bit taken out of the front, Gary Gerald. He will hit his marks first. And Scott Dixon comes your way.
Dixon is in the second pit box. Here comes Josef Newgarden, who ducks into the final pit box for Team Penske. Remember the problems we had in the first round of pit stops. Everything clean thus far.
Taking that one turn of wing out of Castroneves. He's headed your way to the end of pit road.
There is Schechter. He missed his pit, and so that will be a loss of position for him. As you can see on the arrows, Alex Barron and others moved up a spot during this pit sequence. After the track was closed last evening after qualifying here at Gateway International Raceway, a lot of the drivers gathered for an autograph session, but in addition to that, they brought their families. So the kids also had a great time watching their dads sign autographs. Here's Jack Arute.
And we're down here with Tim Cindric now. Tim's car is Elio Castroneves, who was the pole sitter, still talking to his driver. Tim, you told Elio before the drop of the green flag, no telemetry, let's do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, he was well aware because the dash is all blank as well, so he's shifting on the rev limiter and just trying to make the most of it. So a little bit old school here.
How does it affect the way you call this race, however?
Well, we're trying to gauge a little bit off of what we did in qualifying and what we did this morning in the longer runs. Also, we've tapped into Gilles' telemetry just to give us a gauge on our calculations. So we just, you know, in some ways he likes it because we don't know what he's doing in the cockpit. So.
And yet he was reporting to you before that pit stop that the car had gone a bit loose.
Yeah, it went a little bit loose there toward the end of that stint. Not sure if the tires went off or what happened there, but I think we're back in good shape.
Bob, one thing that's been good so far is the fact that both pit stops have come under yellow flag conditions.
And Marlboro Team Penske running second and third. Well, we're here at Gateway, and right across the river, Sunday night ESPN, your destination for Major League Baseball, right here in St. Louis as the Braves meet the Cardinals. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Nextel, 8 p.m. Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Gary?
Roger Yasukawa has been released from the medical center, and Roger, as a rookie on this very demanding racetrack, tell us about how your day had been going until the contact.
Well, the car was running good. I think we're up for a top 10 finish, and I thought I saw opportunity to pass Greg Ray. Unfortunately, when I got into dirty air, my car went loose on me, and I spun and hit the wall. So it's an unfortunate day for Panasonic RTA car, but we have a lot more race to go, and hopefully I'll keep finishing in top 10.
Aside from the disappointment of this particular incident here, can you tell us about, are you pleased with the way your learning curve has gone this season?
Certainly, but I guess not from today's result, but I think we just need to keep finishing. As a rookie, if you don't finish the race, you don't learn as much. So, but I think I've been doing okay, and hopefully the rest of the season I'll be doing better.
Thank you, Roger. Jack?
Well, Michael calls the shots for Scott Dixon. They're getting ready to call the green. 1 to go at the line. Mike, thus far, how's the run been?
It's great. Scott's displaying why he's such a talented guy. He just worked his way through the traffic, did a great job.
Bob?
99 laps completed, and they will get the 1 to go sign. I'm Bob Jenkins, and you're watching the IRL IndyCar Series Gateway Indy 250. 99 out of 250 laps are completed. We have had 4 leaders to the point. Castroneves been up front 53 laps, Kanan for 21, Dixon for 20, and Brack for 5. We have had 4 caution periods during this race, and 4 different leaders. We're about to go green once again. Let's throw it back to Paul Page and Scott Goodyear.
Dixon, Castroneves, and DeFerrin, the top 3. 3 Toyotas. Dixon, who has been brilliant, especially on the short tracks this year. Interesting, though, hearing it's because the whole electronic, as we look at the restart order, the electronic management system, the data system is what's gone on Castroneves' car, so he doesn't even have a dash display. And they don't have an analog backup on that. So the green back out. Dixon leads him. Kanan trying to work his way through the field, gets past Robbie Buell. We're getting a report now that Kenny Brack started on the front row, still suffering problems. Now they say the engine sounds very sour. Hornish working Schechter.
Hornish is always making that outside line work, always looking to the outside.
Firestone telemetry here. We'll ride with it a little as the temperatures come up on the tires.
See how off the throttle you are in the middle of the turns, down to 33%, back to 100% going down the straightaway. 2,000-foot long straightaway, clicking up a gear, now going into turn 3. Watch the speed fall off, watch the throttles fall off as the G's build up, and then you push the accelerator, squeeze the accelerator on the way out of the turn, going back down the straightaway.
Well, Buddy Rice has been in and out of the pit several times, currently 5 laps behind the race with that new Gen 4 engine. Running well back in 16th place. Jack Harud, what's the story with that car?
Well, let's find out from the owner of the Red Bull Cheever Racing Team, Eddie Cheever. I thought the Bowtie boys were back.
We had a lot of push yesterday in qualifying. We've overcompensated for it, and the car is very loose.
How about the performance of the engine, Eddie? How excited are you?
You can have the best engine in the world, but if you can't get around the corner, it's not going to do you much good. But it's running well, and we chose a very bad time to have a Neil handling car.
Bob, it's one of those days, I mean, Paul, where you just have to soldier on, grin and bear it.
And you think about the guys with Chevrolet Power in the early part of the season. Scott, I've said it to you several times. I don't have any idea what kind of drive it takes to let them go out and make them go out when they know that they didn't have a chance in the early part of the season at all. We're going to take a look at the field at the line.
Very difficult, Paul, because you come here, you're built on emotion. As the days build on, your emotion actually starts to build up from qualifying all the way through race day. And as we look at the line, we'll see the top speeds right now. And I'll tell you, as a driver, you always want to have a chance at winning the race. And even if you didn't qualify well, you think that you have some opportunity to do it. And 168 miles an hour on this 1.125 mile track. Pretty impressive here.
Yeah, he's just, of course, he's running out clear right now, but 3 miles an hour faster than everybody else.
Good run for him, and you know, and it's all built on emotion, like we're saying. He's in emotion right now because he's up front and he's going fast. And as the race progresses on, these guys know how each other's cars are, And if they feel like they don't have enough to lead, it sort of takes your emotions away from you a little bit. It's a little bit difficult sometimes when you don't know that you can be up front. You asked me about those Chevrolet drivers all season long. They've been waiting for the next race at Kentucky, which is next weekend, when they all know they'll have the new Gen 4 Chevrolet engine.
Well, with Dixon on the lead, we'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television. The Aucklander, Scott Dixon, now enjoys the largest lead he's had today, 4.8 seconds over second place. Elio Castroneves, DeFerrin, and Barron. Top four are all Toyota powers. Greg Ray is in 10th place. He's been in and out of the pits a couple of times, but whatever it is they're working with, it seems to be something that is curable. And now he's sitting at the back end of the top 10. Kenny Brack, well, he's out of the car. This is the second DNF in a row for Brack. And by the way, before we go down to Jackaroot to talk with him, we have tried to talk to Al Unser Jr. and Brian Herta, and they both have declined interviews. Jack?
Well, the Miller High Life Pioneer car that sat on the outside pole for Kenny Brack with Honda Power. What happened, Kenny, that took you finally out of the race?
Yeah, I don't know what happened yet. We had some issues with the power. I don't know if it's electrical or whatever it is, but it stopped pulling.
When you take a look at the performance, though, today, do you think maybe the monkey in this weekend, the monkey is off the back of this Rahal Letterman team?
I think we did a good job in qualifying. I think we have still some ways to go for the race setup, but we're getting there little by little.
Paul, one thing that Kenny Brack does after every race, he sends an email to the owners telling them what he likes and what he didn't like. I'd like to look at that one tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to see that one. Those lines down the middle of the track that you see so clearly there and on the onboard cameras were a problem earlier in the week, Scott.
They were, Paul. Actually, a lot of teams came here and tested for a few weeks, and those lines are actually the seams. And what ended up happening is that there was some caulking in those seams. The cars started to suck the seams out, actually, all the caulking out of those seams, simply because they're creating such a suction because of the downforce on the car. Now, when we drive along, those black marks that you're talking about were actually repaired and fixed in this last week by track management, who did a wonderful job with what they call rhino plastic and actually filled in those caulking areas, and actually they've had simply no problem with them, no cut tires, and these guys have just gone ahead and done a great job today with that, with the track, monitored all weekend, and a very successful job.
We're coming up forward in the field. 7th place is now Tora Takagi, the 12 car. There you see it with Thomas Scheckter right behind him. And Scheckter has been working Takagi pretty steadily the past couple of laps.
Now remember, Scheckter missed his pit box coming into the pits last time. He overshot. The crew had to run, get him, bring him back into his pit box so they could service the car. And when he went out, he was at the very end of the queue, actually, on last guy on the lead lap. So he had a long way to make himself get moved further forward.
Fastest laps there. Dixon has the fastest thus far. His teammate Scheckter second quick, but Dan Weldon, who just turned that 165.5, turned it on hard the past couple of laps. Weldon's currently in 6th place.
A great young driver with a lot of road course background. He's actually now just starting to get himself acclimated to the United States here in the ovals.
Hornish just went around Rice. There's Gen 3 v Gen 4, and Hornish is looking pretty powerful with it. Hornish currently in 9th place. Well, this fall, America unleashes its newest secret weapon, an elite team of experts whose greatest missions are keeping us safe from any and all threats. Threat Matrix, a new drama coming Thursdays on ABC. So with 122 laps complete here at Gateway International Raceway, Scott Dixon is in front, followed by the Penske cars of Castroneves and DeFerrin. Dixon's parents were racers. They call him the Iceman. He's a guy that is very quiet. He's humorous. He's fun to be around, but he really lets most of the strong statements come when he's sitting behind the wheel of a race car. And he has spoken loudly this year, taking over the points fight at the last race at Michigan. Looks like he's still going to keep it. He has 5 of the 10 fastest laps thus far today as we take a look at that list. Jackaroo?
Well, you're talking about how this youngster from Auckland, New Zealand is matriculated from the road courses, his first love, to oval track supremacy. Scott Dixon said earlier this week that one of the major changes and why all of a sudden he has embraced oval track racing is the competition in the Indy Racing League IndyCar Series. He said, when I first came here, I was concerned about rubbing wheels and just how close you could race and not have to make serious contact. He says, now as I enter the end of my first season, I'm actually beginning to really like it because we can run so close, even though they have open wheels.
And he's got a little favorite place in the Broad Ripple area, a great area on the north side of Indianapolis, Indiana, and has been known to play quite a game of snooker. Not pool, but snooker he played. So Dixon in front. Toyota the top 3. Kanan is the lead. Honda currently in 4th place.
The Gateway Indy 250 on ABC Sports, brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. Trim Spa, completely ephedra-free. Get your high-speed Dream Body diet pill today. And 7-Eleven. When it comes to fresh, 7-Eleven has it made. Hungry? Thirsty? Oh, thank heaven.
The Target Chip Ganassi team has done a masterful job in preparation of the car for Scott Dixon. He drives it all over this racetrack. Enjoys now an 8-second lead over second place Helio Castroneves. Let's check up, see what the leaders are doing right now. We'll start with Gary Gerald.
Paul, you talk about the testimony to what you're speaking of and how they set up this car for Scott Dixon. There's not been one aero change on this car today, and it maintains letter perfect as he tries to stretch that lead. They have one more pit stop in front of them. Mike Hull, incidentally, got a visit from Kenny Brack right after Kenny did that interview with Jack. Kenny came down to apologize for the pit road contact, explained that I got hit from behind. I'm sorry I got into your driver. There were no other ill will or ill feelings there. Jack?
Second place man and pole sitter for this race, Helio Castroneves started out with an empty dash, no telemetry. Then the car went loose. They made an adjustment, taking one turn of wing out of the front of the car on the last pit stop. The car is working well now. Tim Cindric says we're going to try and go as far as we can, but not beyond lap 157. Gary, they say that they can't go as far as they'd like to in terms of fuel consumption because they have no telemetry.
And of course there is telemetry for his teammate Gilles DeFerrin, who runs in 3rd place. They took a half turn and put a half turn of wing into the car on the last pit stop. The crew tells us that the car seems to get better longer into the run. That could be critical, of course, after this final pit stop. And we've got a yellow.
Yellow comes out, and it's the 21 car. It'd been slowing already, so Alex Barron, who was running a pretty good race in 6th, and as high as 5th, now he's going to climb out. And also, Foyt the 4th came in about 3 laps ago, pulled down on the inside. In fact, you saw him pulling down on the front straightaway, and they've got the cowling off the back of the car. And so the 4th staying in there, maybe they'll be able to get that thing back into the fight.
They're taking those side pods off. Paul, usually what that means is there's some type of an electrical problem, trying to get down to all the electronics and the black boxes that are on the cars.
And
Paul, they seem to think that Alex Barron may have finally had the gearbox give out. Remember, he was involved in that little bit of a rear-end collision. The crew seems to think that that's probably what started the demise of the gearbox. He makes the long walk back to pit road.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, the winner of the 400-mile race at Michigan, and now he's afoot well before the end of this race. But I'll tell you what, that run at Michigan, remember the spin first? Oh, yeah. And he saved it. Kept it going, then got in the battle at the finish. Look at that. Look at everybody goes everywhere. despite all of that, in the run to the finish, Barron took the win at Michigan. So now he gets a lift back while he's still a foot there. Going back to the pits, he's out of the day. So each broadcast will answer your internet question on the IRL IndyCar Series. Here's one for you. Gary in Austin asking, what is the difference in wing configurations for an IRL IndyCar at Gateway as opposed to, say, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
Well, Paul, there's actually 3 different wing configurations, and the one in Indianapolis uses just what they call this main plane, which is this big flat piece of material right there that's used to buy a main plane. They use smaller side plates here on both sides of the car. Now, here we have what we call a 3-element wing. The main plane I talked about, the second element here, and the third element, and that third element itself actually has what they call a wicker bill or a gurney flap on the top of it, and you'll notice how large these side plates are. And what ends up happening at this particular track, a lot of downforce is needed. That's why this particular wing is used. Indianapolis is all about high speed and less downforce. And that wing, because it's going 225 miles an hour at Indianapolis, creates a fair amount of downforce for the car to handle that particular track.
You can log on to ESPN.com, keyword IRL, and submit your question, and which we'll try to answer during the next race telecast. So under caution once again.
Back here at Gateway International Raceway, the pits open after an incident involving Alex Barron. Actually, he just slowed on the racetrack. Hopefully, we'll talk with him in a few minutes. Here is Scott Dixon with the Target Chip Ganassi crew going to work on Dixon, who now has led the most laps here. Nice pit stop. He's out first. Here comes... And it looks like that Castroneves will be in second position. DeFerrin is going to lose his spot here to Tony Kanaan. And Sam Hornish Jr. also with a good spot. He is going to move up in the restart order. Pace car over in turn number 3. And when they come down to the start-finish line, they will be given the 1-to-go signal. Jack Arute, meanwhile, is with the guy who caused this most recent caution, Alex Barron.
Alex, was it the gearbox?
We think so. I'm not real sure. Something let go pretty quick in the back, and felt like a shaft or something. I let go. I'm not sure, but it was unfortunate. We had a really good car moving up, so I thought at the end of the race we'd have a run.
Talk quickly about the bump from behind when you took that ram.
Well, the guys were getting real aggressive on the way in, and Herta and a couple other guys got together, and then I just slowed up, and then it looked like Roger didn't brake. He just ran right in the back of me, but it got shooken up pretty quick there in the pit stops.
Guys?
Well, Dixon leads the field down the backstretch. They're ready to go green once again. Interesting, though, there's those verticals that indicate the go zone. That's when Dixon can determine the start because he can pick up the pace at any time in there. Stopped on the 142nd lap. Green comes out, Dixon leads him. I would say that's a very long reach to the end of the race. They're going to have to make some pretty good mileage to get to the end of the race.
Well, 144 laps in the books right now, going on 145. It's doable right now. It all depends on how your throttle application is.
Kanaan moving forward. And he's got DeFerrin right with him. Dixon, though, again with a great restart. Pulls away. So here at the Gateway Indy 250, just across the river from St. Louis in Madison, Illinois. Scott Dixon is the leader of the race. He's had a great run today, leading the most laps. They're the top 3 right now. Dixon continues to run up the lap count, currently at 66 with 4 different leaders. And there's how many each of them have led. Out of the race, now this is a list longer than we would like. And Unser Jr. and Herta both came out of the race on a pit accident. And one crew member injured in that, and we still wait for a fuller update on that situation. So now you have Castroneves still without telemetry, running in second place behind Dixon. And that problem of no telemetry, no data, is not just one that's going to the pits, it's also going to his dashboard. It's blank right now. He has no idea. And here that's pretty important because you need a down and upshift at least twice every lap.
And you heard Tim Cindric say earlier that he's actually driving the car waiting for the engine to go on the rev limiter, which is 10,300 RPM with these engines, and then he knows to shift. And the reason that is because, as you mentioned, Paul, his dash is out. There is a bar graph that tells him the engine RPM on his engine in front of him when he's driving right behind the steering wheel. And what ends up happening with no telemetry, no dash, he doesn't have that information. He just goes by what we call the old-fashioned method.
And guys, it was interesting that on that last pit stop, Tony Kanaan's crew reported to the IRL officials that Castroneves did not have his pit limiter on pit road. That all relates to that telemetry problem. They obviously weren't aware of it. We ride with Kanaan.
And Kanaan moves around Vitor Mira. Vitor is the reason you saw the blue flag with the yellow diagonal. That's the move over faster competitor there. And Tony Kanaan's been hopping on and off the radio, as I think everybody has, hoping that they can get a clear run around guys like Vitor Mira. And relays to their pits and then relays up to the spotters who are on top of the press box, on top of the main grandstand, talking to their drivers all the way around this track.
And Paul, to add one extra thing on that telemetry situation and the pit speed limit, people might ask, why don't they do it like NASCAR? Why doesn't he just come down and say 4,000 RPM in second gear? Well, when you lose your dash and lose telemetry, you don't have the RPM gauge either, so he cannot even do that system. So he's really just got to go by feel and maybe watch the cars around him and maybe pace off of them.
Scott Dixon turned the lap at 169 miles an hour one lap ago, so he's flying. That's the fastest of the race. Our inside line update, well, Dixon is the guy looking to make the most points. Castroneves would like to dispute that, though. Kenny Brack back but out. He had serious problems, took him out of the race. And Sam Hornish in the older of the Chevrolets. Rice having the Gen 4 today, but it's Sam that currently sits in 6th place. And Jack Arute, Hornish looking strong again.
We talked about Hornish with the Gen 4 engine 2 weeks ago in Michigan. He has a Gen 3. We're going to call it 3.3 today because they're on board with a new manifold system, unlike the one that was on the traditional Gen 3. I can't believe that Chevrolet continues to work on it, but they have. And it's a little bit peanut sized instead of more circular. And what it does is it increases the velocity of the air as it goes into the engine. It has given the Gen 3 engine 15 more horsepower. Combine that with Sam Hornish's newly acquired ability to drive, and he was able to put it all together here. The only other team with that Gen 3 manifold update is Vitor Mira. Why? It was developed by Menard Engine Technology.
And John Menard, of course, owns Vitor Mira's car. So now we do have an update from the IRL. The left rear tire changer, Anton Julian, on the Al Unser Jr. car, was taken to local hospital and is in serious but stable condition. And should there be further reports, we will update them for you. Scott Dixon now 5.6 seconds in front of second place Helio Castroneves. Tony Kanaan is third. Gil DeFerrin is fourth. And Dan Weldon is fifth. There's the interval. And look how Scott Dixon pulls away from that battle for second place. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television.
The IRL IndyCar Series on ABC Sports continues.
Let's bring you up to speed on what's happened here in the last few minutes. Well, it's very simple. The guy who has absolutely dominated this race is gone. The car slowed and did not make it into pit road. In fact, that car stopped in the warm-up lane between turns 3 and 4, and that has resulted in a caution. Gary?
Mike Hull and the team watching with great concern. Of course, their man can't get to the pit, so now they have to wait. They lose laps in the process. It is gearbox related, whether or not it is jammed in gear, and they may be able to make some kind of a save. Well, here comes the car right now, and the crew will quickly try to assess. It's a dead stick approach, as we call it. Engine is off, and now they'll see if there's something they can do for a quick fix and get him out. Jack?
Well, Gary, if Tim Cindric is able to make this whole deal work and Helio Castroneves goes on to win, I got some advice. Get rid of all that high-dollar telemetry. But you're going to try and save some fuel during this caution period right now. How many miles per gallon can you get when you try to save some fuel during yellow?
Usually somewhere between 6 and 9, depending on the situation and what gear you're running. But right now, we're just trying to save fuel just to be sure that we're sure, because we don't have any way of knowing exactly what it is, aside from the fact that it was full when it left.
Bob? All right, this is going to be interesting. Now, from the very moment the race started, Helio had no onboard dashboard information. Now, Scott, how important is that, and what information does he lack?
Well, Bob, he lacks everything that you see right now, and you see these green and red lights first off that go off. That is telling you the RPMs. It goes green, green, yellow, red, and tells him when he needs to actually be able to change gears. This is the gear selector right here. Will tell him what gear that he's in. Tank fill, it tells him how much fuel he's used. These other areas here, you can put any type of parameters that you want, from tire pressure to engine functions, temperatures, and what have you. He does not have this. They do not have this information in the pit box either.
Well, it would seem like a very serious handicap, but Helio Castroneves at the moment is at the front of the field with Tony Kanaan running in the second position. Yesterday, the Infinity Pro Series competed here in a 100-mile race at Gateway International Raceway. This is 2 laps from the finish. Brandon Urban and Mark Taylor running first and second collide. Both of them hit the wall, and that results in a checkered and yellow finish for Jeff Simmons, who won the Gateway 100 here at Gateway yesterday. Corey Weatherall, Ari Lyondike Jr., Ed Carpenter, and Tom Wood completed the top 5. 1 lap to go here in the IRL IndyCar Series, and that is Scott Dixon's gearbox that appears to be smoking and damaged sincerely. Guys, we're about to go green.
Well, they're hoping that they could make a change in the carrier, the gear carrier, and get that bolted back on the car. Points being critical now in the championship fight. There's the restart order. Everybody should be ready to go all the way to the end of this thing. Castroneves, though, without any information on what his car has, but logically he's in good shape.
Tony Kanaan's concerned. He's in a Penske sandwich. Tim Green says we're good to go on fuel. Right now we just need a great restart.
Green, green, no start, no start.
No start.
No start. Yellow, yellow, yellow.
Make sure everybody gets through that turn 4. And the call from the IRL officials was that he started too early. So Helio Castroneves, who has the right, being the leader, to bring the field back, but as a result of jumping a little bit earlier, it's actually marked with cones, and we showed you the marked earlier. He just went a little too early, and they said, no, you're not going to start that. Laps led in this season so far. Scott Dixon looking so good until he had problems with his gearbox. There's the go zone, Scott. Those 2 marks. And Helio can accelerate there. They do say it's a good acceleration, and it's a green course. DeFerrin comes up to work on Tony Kanaan. And look at Weldon come to the inside.
Actually, Schechter
coming to the inside. Weldon on the high side. Hornish is back just behind this, fighting as well.
Schechter actually went around Hornish on the start, and he looks like he's as hooked up as his teammate was. We'll have to see if he can get it to the end.
On board with Greg Ray toward Takagi, and Hornish just ahead of him. Ray's currently 8th.
You hear how much you get off the throttle in the turns here. He went down a gear and then came out of the turn and back up a gear. Road course tendencies here at this oval here in St. Louis. I'd say the guy that's probably flying the most right now and did a great job on that restart is Schechter.
Takagi came down low. I think he intended for Ray to get up on the high side of him, but Ray followed him down low. But we mentioned toward Takagi, and now the officials are sending out a radio message to toward Takagi's team. Don't do that again. You do, you're going to see the black flag. And that, of course, means bring it into the pits.
Now, as these guys cross the line, Paul, 166, 67, 66 are the top three as far as speed is concerned. When Dixon was out there before, he was around those 68, 69 laps. So these guys are much more evenly matched compared to those 3 or 4 at the top than where Dixon was.
Remember, Tora Takagi already lost 23 points. That was his penalty for that incident at Texas where he went screaming down the inside, and that put Felipe Giafoni, his teammate, up into the wall. The IRL, they didn't like that at all, and they certainly assessed a serious penalty, money and the points. So it's Castroneves and Kanaan and DeFerrin. Gary Gerald, what's up with Scott Dixon?
Scott, was there any warning whatsoever that the gearbox problem was coming for you?
No, not really. Just coming out of for that time. Looking at it now, looks like it's when Kenny Brack hit us in the back end coming into the pits. It's broken the back casing, so that's probably where it happened.
In terms of the championship, how much does this hurt your hopes now?
Yeah, it hurts a lot. You know, it's going to be 50 points now, so I don't know. We can't seem to get much luck this year. We'll just have to see if we can win some more races and catch up.
And they'll start that process next week in Kentucky.
In all likelihood, Dixon will drop to 4th place in the point standings as a result of that DNF here at Gateway International. So Castroneves still running without telemetry. Kanaan and DeFerrin, top 3. We'll be back with more right after this.
The Gateway Indy 250 on ABC Sports, brought to you by Delphi, driving tomorrow's technology. Chevrolet, wherever there's a winner's circle, we'll be there. And Target, expect more, pay less.
Remember, we mentioned that a bunch of the IRL group headed over to the Cardinals game this week. Greg Ray, Alex Barron, Buddy Rice, Paul Dana gave the car a little bit of a demonstration from his Infiniti Pro car. Turn your children away from the screen. Jack Arute actually got out and danced, and we do apologize for this video. But Sarah Fisher brought a whole gang of kids. And sang at the 7th inning stretch. Sarah's still in competition here. They had a special start your engines for her at the beginning of the race. She runs 8th. And by the way, 1st through 8th here. 1st through 8th are covered by a mere 6 seconds right now. So Elio Castroneves in front. Kanaan's right there with him, so is DeFerrin. Top 8 all running together. Jack Arute?
We caught up, and Ellinger Jr. has released a written statement about the incident that injured one of his crew members, and I quote from it: "We came in for our stop, and our guys did a great job. I was preparing to leave, and then I was rear-ended. One of my crew members, Anton Julian, was injured. That was the end of my day. The car that hit me, I believe, was Brian Herta. It damaged my suspension bad enough that I couldn't return to the race. Right now, my thoughts are with Anton, and we're looking forward to a good report from the hospital on his condition." And we certainly have gotten encouraging and very good reports since he went to St. Louis University Medical Center.
Yeah, we can actually help with that report too, Jack. There's a further report now that he is improving, so that is tremendously good news. Toyota, Honda, Toyota, top 3. Castroneves, Kanaan, DeFerrin. Then Schechter and Weldon. Getting down to the closing laps now with just 17 to go. And this looks like it's going to be a lot, Scott Goodyear, like last week, where all the play may come in the final couple of laps.
Well, the 4th car on your screen right now, Thomas Schechter, we talked about him on the restart, very strong, passing a few guys. But, you know, it's catching up to the pack is one thing. Being able to actually drive up to their rear bumper and pass them is another thing. You can actually catch up to them quickly. You get the dirty air in the turns, and if you can't accelerate out, as we talked about before, you'll never get past them.
Elio Castroneves, last time that he won a race, 20 ago. Indianapolis 500 last year, but he's been consistent. He's been in the fight. And as a result, he's up there in the points. This win would sure take the monkey off of his back, Jack Arute.
Paul, just last evening I sat down and talked to Elio Castroneves, and we were comparing his slump with the slump that Tiger Woods has had in the majors in the golfing world. And he said, I really can't address Tiger Woods, but I can empathize with him. He said, what is most difficult when you are in a slump is you are trying to do everything the same way that you did it in the past. He said, we haven't changed anything at Marlboro Team Penske. The only thing that was departed is just the little bit of luck that goes in the equation.
Well, the day started with bad luck, turned to good luck. He's in the lead. Will he win it? With 8 to go at Gateway International Raceway, Elio Castroneves is doing it the old-fashioned way, shifting by ear. He has no information on his dash at all. The team doesn't have any telemetry, and yet he's out in front running for the finish. They hope they've saved enough fuel. The Penske team believes they have, but when you look at the lineup there behind him, Tony Kanaan, his own teammate Gil DeFerrin, Thomas Scheckter, Weldon, they all have a shot at taking the lead of this race within the next 7 laps. Tension level is coming up. And what do they say? It's not over till it's over.
Well, you know, we talked about transmissions here today because there's been a lot of failures, actually. But right now, he's trying to treat everything as smoothly as possible. It's interesting, Paul. He's aboard a Dallara right now. We always talk about the engines. Toyota and Honda are actually 1-2. But if he wins today, it will break the tie between Dallara and G-Force with 5 wins each so far this year and give Dallara their 6th win, which is always a big thing for the manufacturers.
And if he does win, clear the fences. But that is hardly an accomplished fact at this moment. You just heard Tim Cindric give the 5 to go information to Castroneves.
Now, as a driver, you're sitting in there just looking ahead, seeing if you have to deal with any traffic up ahead. You hope that your team is working with the spotters of the other cars if there is any traffic. You're trying to hit your points perfectly. You're trying to be smooth.
Looking at the interval in the upper left there. And it remains unchanged back to Tony Kanaan. But there are slower traffic ahead.
Paul, 7 different winners in 10 races so far this year. And amazingly, as you mentioned before, Castroneves has not won in such a long time. That'll make the 8th, but he's always just been so competitive. And maybe it's his charisma that sort of makes you feel like he's winning all the time out there.
Oh, Castroneves has a whole line. You see them getting the flag ahead of him that he's got to maneuver around. He's around Buddy Lazier. Buddy Rice is next in line. Kanaan comes up on Lazier. If he paces this right, he'll have a nice inside pass going into turn 3 and stay in touch with Castroneves. Now Castroneves with Buddy Rice ahead of him. And Kanaan closes in by 0.6 of a second.
He said before, Paul, getting close is one thing. Getting past, it's going to be a whole different deal.
Yeah, car can become wide, can it? Should see white flag next time around. There it is, 1 lap to go. Castroneves looking to break the slump. Can Tony Kanaan close in this lap? Castroneves looking for his 4th career win. And now he can almost roll to that finish. Kanaan can't do it. He can't catch him. Castroneves breaks the slump, takes the win. Way to go, guys. And celebrating Castroneves moves to 3rd in the IRL standings. Tony Kanaan takes the points lead. Castroneves is 10 points back. So Elio Castroneves takes the win. Gary Gerald.
Tim Cindric, how tough was this without the telemetry in the dash?
Well, it kind of brings it back to reality, but you got to be prepared for that for sure. You don't know there at the end whether you have enough fuel or not. You think you know, but you don't really know. But it turned out the right way anyway.
How worried were you?
Relatively not so worried. After that last yellow, we thought we had about 2 gallons left.
All right, Jack.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Just cut off the engine. Helio Castroneves, you have won. The slope is over. He climbs the fence. The tradition continues. 4 career victories for the man from Brazil. 13 months without a win since the 2002 Indianapolis 500. And that is now yesterday's news. Helio. Let's talk for a moment. No telemetry, and yet you got it done. How concerned were you?
It's like a flying airplane, man, without any instrument. Just by radios, you know, and oh my God, the team did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, we did it! We did it! Bob?
Oh, boy. Helio Castroneves, when he wins, he celebrates. Here are the point standings. With 11 of 16 races completed, Tony Kanaan back on top of the point standings. Here are the unofficial results of today's Gateway Indy 250. Castroneves wins for the first time since Indy in 2002. Ryan Hurd and Al Unser Jr. with the incident on pit road. Join us next week, August 17th, for the Belterra Resort Indy 300 from Kentucky Speedway. We'll be live at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific on ABC Sports. ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Keyword ABC Sports.